Alright, well, enough of you guys asked that I'm gonna go ahead and do the video explaining what multi-core farming is, even though I do think if you play the game for a little bit, you kinda will just eventually figure out what it means, but I can also just understand being a new player getting into a new game and just not getting all the lingo and what that might be, and it would just be helpful for somebody to explain it properly. I mean, myself as somebody who plays a lot of different mobile games and will try them out, definitely do struggle with that when people hit me with some lingo that I'm not familiar with when I'm trying to get into like a Star Rail, or I tried Genshin for a little bit, or tried Blue Archive for a little bit. You know, I get into those and people start hitting me with terms that I have no idea what they're talking about. And I never have the luxury of really being able to get a good explanation for that type of stuff. But hey, you got me. You're getting into FGO. I will explain to you what multi-core farming is from, you know, a perspective I can give, because I'm a big dummy, right? So I know I can dumb it down for everybody. And if I can get it, then you can get it, all right? And on that note, if there's just anything else that you, yes, you dear viewer watching this video, feel that you just don't understand about FGO, there's just some topic or some aspect of farming, of boss fights, or whatever have you that you are confused about, please, by all means, request that video in the comments down below. We're kind of in a dry spell period right now for FGO, and so if there's anything I can do in the meantime to kind of talk and help out players while we are in this kind of low period, I am completely fine with going ahead and doing that. So drop those questions in the comments down below and I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. But now that I've done all of my, you know, signature yapping at the beginning of the video, let's just start getting into the actual topic of this video, and really it is quite simple. So normally when you go into a farming node, the whole idea is that you want to finish the free quest node, because usually it's a free quest node, as quick as possible, right? And that's usually going to be a 3-turn farm because there are 3 waves, but even right now on the NA side of things, we have a 2-turn 90++ node where the min turn to get that done as fast and efficiently as possible is going to be 2 turns. But sometimes you can't do it in the traditional sense where you're using, say, double Scotty for quick, or double Castory for arts, double Clay and Skya for buster. Sometimes your one servant can't get the job done, and so multi-core farming is kind of the solution to that, where usually you are bringing, say, an AoE and a single target to deal with specifically 90+ and more specifically 90++ nodes, because they can just be kind of difficult to push through for most boxes. Now, if you're like me and you have the luxury of NP5 in your Morgan, you can kind of just push through whatever content they throw at you, right? Like doing 1,000,000 damage to some of these bosses is not all that difficult. But on my JP side of things, I don't have that same luxury, right? JP, I'm pretty much completely free to play over there, and I just have the double Castoria. I don't got no Oberon, I don't have a Ruler Scotty, I don't have Koyan Sky, no fancy bells and whistles. My Castoria over there is Bond 15. So multi-coring is something I do a lot on the JP side of things, which you'll see if you ever come out to one of my live streams, or usually we have to rely on multiple servants to get the job done in some of these 90++ nodes. Because if you look at a node that, say, is positioned like a 211 node, right? Something along those lines is just annoying enough that you can't use a single target for all 3 waves, because we do have some free quest nodes that are structured with 1 enemy in all 3 nodes, and so single targets are kind of a bit better for that and being able to loop their NP backs and doing more damage because they're single target. But when you have a 2 or 3 enemy starter in that first node, it can be very inconsistent if you're trying to, say, do an NP followed by face cards to try to get through some of those enemies, and sometimes it's just impossible to do if you want to use a single target, that you gotta break out an AoE servant. And this does come at the detriment that you're usually not able to bring somebody like, say, Oberon, or a Tamamo, a Waver, a Proto Merlin, normal Merlin, just anybody that you can kind of plug suit in for additional damage and usually also additional battery. But you get the benefit of getting a more consistent clear. Take, for instance, the Lilim Harlot event that is coming out in a couple of months over here on the NA side. Well, I say a couple of months, but like, you know, 6 to 8 months out at this point, but it's coming up soon. It's closer than when it was 2 years out, you know, when it initially released. But that one has a 311 style structure for its free quest, and for me, I pulled Draco, and she's really good for that. Even at NP1 with event damage bonus, she can easily trunce that stage. You know, she just does a boatload of damage, so the Wave 2 and Wave 3 enemies that are both single target big boys, she can take those guys out no problem. But then there's a bunch of those Lost Belt 2 giants on the first wave, and I had to crack out my Summer Ibuki to deal with that first wave. And usually for those servants, you gotta really cope with the fact that you're not gonna be able to give them as many buffs as you would want. All my buffs pretty much have to go to Draco because she has to do the Mondo damage of taking out the bigger enemies. Ibuki's gotta be able to pretty much effectively lock down that first node by herself, which is why for a lot of these multi-core things, because you're only counting on them to clear one wave, you go for someone that is as tailor-made as possible to take out that. Whether it's as simple as, oh, they have man attribute, I'm gonna go ahead and bring Senno Riki or Morgan, or they have earth attribute, I'm gonna bring Summer Ibuki, right? You try to tailor them as best as possible that they'll be able to get that first wave locked in and done by themselves because you can't afford to give them the buffs, which all the servants we've been talking about are art servants. So you might be wondering, well, does this only work with art servants? Can you do this with Buster and Quick Team comps? And I don't want to say it's impossible, but considering that art is pretty much the best at doing multi-core setups, strictly because Castoria has the split batteries on her first and second skill, nobody really does it like Arts. To keep things simple, we'll just use that Draco and Ibuki setup that I was using earlier. We'll just use that as an example. You open up with your Draco, your Ibuki, and then one of the Castorias. One of those Castorias is going to dump all of her buffs onto Draco because Draco has no immediate battery. She needs to get that total 100% from both of the Castorias. But remember, Castoria's first skill gives to the entire party. So between both of those Castorias, Ibuki over there is getting 60% battery plus her own 50% battery, and that's all you need her to do. Usually you'd be like, oh, I don't want to waste the battery, I don't want to, maybe I do need this because I don't refund enough NP or something, but because you just want that multi-core, that additional DPS servant to take out that one wave, you don't really care if you burn the battery. Now, there are some times where I've kind of swapped it up a little bit, where I've used a different single target. Say it's Kenshin. I don't just always use Draco everywhere as much as I would like to, but there are some times where, say, you have those 3 enemies in the front, and then you maybe have 2 enemies on the second node, you can kind of get away with getting your AoE to loop all 3 of those nodes if you preserve their battery. And then you also have them to be able to lead in front of your main DPS going into the final node, which overclocks their NP, giving them more overcharge, which is usually more of a power mod that they're going to want to more effectively take out that final boss, that huge 1 million HP enemy. And yeah, it's pretty much an arts, not exclusive thing, but if you want to say do it with other types of team setups, really, you're going to have to kind of do it with Buster because of just how Oberon works. And what I mean by that is that you'll have people that will kind of do those setups, and that also bleeds into kind of trying to make every single Buster servant use Black Grail, but that also gets down to like, is it really multi-core farming if I'm going to have, Oberon clear wave 1? I guess by definition, yeah, because you're using 2 different DPSs to get through the nodes. And again, I say it for Quick as well, where it's like, yeah, technically Quick could do quote unquote multi-core farming because Ruler Scotty does have an offensive NP, and if you're fighting lawful enemies on that first wave, I guess you could kind of get something together that would be pretty decent. But that's pretty much going to require you to have like a K-scope with, her append skill done, so you don't have to like waste her battery, because you're going to use her battery probably on one of your other servants. But then again, you might be able to get away with using her battery on herself with like a starting 50% starting charge CE, because she's going to be doing the first wave. There's not as much pressure on your looper to need that additional 50% battery. So again, like, not impossible to do in those setups, right? I guess same thing can apply to Koyenskaya, but you really don't want to use Koyenskaya's battery on herself. You really do want to use that on your primary DPS to loop those skills back, because that's pretty much just how Buster farming works. But again, don't want to completely discount it. I guess it's more real for Quick, because Scotty giving the battery to herself is pretty fine, right? Like, because usually your Quick AoE looper is going to have their own battery, then having the other Ruler Scotty's battery, plus, say, Caster Scotty that you could plug suit in with her 50%, or God forbid you have Oberon that can give 70%. Your Quick looper is going to be fine. I know there's like the whole meme where it's like, Quick is absolutely terrible, but if you only need them to really loop back one wave, because even if they got 0% NP back, they would still have Ruler Scotty's 50% battery, the other Ruler Scotty, plus the other servant you're going to be plug suiting in, which even if it's a waiver, that's still 50% from both of those supports that they would then be able to give to your main looper, and they would just get it done regardless, right? So I guess if you're doing it in Quick, you could do it that way. I guess that also might technically be something you could do if you have maybe not as good of a Quick looper and you really do need them to get that guaranteed 100% back, but it's not really something I see people do ever, if at all. But I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to Quick, you know, as the resident green card enjoyer. I feel like I'd be doing it a disservice if I didn't say, well, technically, you know, actually, there is a way to do it. I don't think it's very good, but realistically, you should just be thinking of arts as pretty much the only ones to be doing multicore. There's also, I think you could also, by definition, saying that if you just have a bunch of guys with batteries, you know, and you're giving them starting charge CEs, that might fall under this definition, but I think we just more consider that just battery farming, where, you know, you bring, effectively just think of like 3 guys with K-scopes, they all have like at least a 20% battery, and then you just let them all clear one wave. Not super effective for getting through, you know, 90++ content, but if they're strong enough, they can probably power through 90+ content with how strong a lot of our servants are, and, you know, different power mods you could be slotting on them. But yeah, I hope you found this video to be somewhat helpful. And again, if you have any other questions as, say, a new player, or maybe you're even someone that's been playing for a long time, you're just not that hardcore into the meta, so you don't just know all these like random terms and whatnot, feel free to not only leave a comment in the comment section down below asking me to, you know, make a video or something, or maybe just explain it in the comments, but also don't feel afraid to like come into the Discord, ask people questions. If I'm not there, we have a very good community in there. People will answer your questions. I also stream pretty much every single weekday. FGO is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I've been doing Zenless Zone Zero on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I've been really enjoying that game. But even if you come out for Tuesdays, Thursdays, and I'm not playing FGO, I'll still answer your FGO questions. I'm not getting put on fraud watch because I'm not out here answering questions when I'm not playing FGO, all right? So don't ever feel discouraged to do that. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.